Welcome to the show. It's Thursday as we get ready for the weekend. This is going to be a little programming note here to start things off. Our final show this week, and it's going to be a little bit different next week as well. I've got Notre Dame women's basketball hosting the Southern Cal women tomorrow night, 6 o'clock Eastern time tip-off over at Purcell Pavilion. We'll be on the air at 5:45. So because of that and the fact that this here station carries the game, there will be no show tomorrow. And then on Monday, we've got Notre Dame men's basketball in Las Vegas tipping off against the University of Kansas Jayhawks at 3:30 Eastern time. They'll be on the air at 3 o'clock. And because of that, that broadcast won't end until around 6. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a YouTube-only live show on either the Irish Breakdown YouTube channel, or on both the Irish Breakdown YouTube channel and the Sports Radio WSBT YouTube channel. That'll be from 5 to 6 next Monday. So there's your programming note. That's what it looks like. What do you think about all that, Jesse Stiers?
Busy week with the holidays coming up.
I know, right?
So, it might stink a little bit, but everyone needs a little bit of time off.
Thanksgiving next week. That's right. Rolling into town. We've got football this weekend. We've got football next weekend. We've got basketball. Things are in full session right now. We've got Notre Dame hosting Syracuse this Saturday, Senior Day. We're going to have some comments from Marcus Freeman here in a little bit. Kickoff at 3:30 Saturday afternoon, Notre Dame Stadium. The radio call here on Sports Radio WSBT and the Notre Dame Radio Network, the Odyssey app, AUDCAY, and the game day show from 11 until 2:30 Eastern time this Saturday. Tim, Eric, and Tyler will welcome their guest, Frank Pomerico, confirmed from the 1973 National Championship team, one of the captains of that team, on the game day show, 11 to 2:30 Eastern time this Saturday. Before we hear some of Marcus Freeman's comments, and he had some more comments on Jaden Greathouse today that we're going to get to here in just a minute. Yesterday was mailbag day, and there was a question that slipped by me somehow from ND Forever 72. Here's the hypothetical that ND Forever 72 posed. Combine last year's defense with this year's offense that has a more balanced attack and a much better passing game. Would they have beaten the Luckeyes, he says, the Buckeyes, for the national championship last year if you combined last year's defense with this year's offense?
I'm just going to say no, because I think that Ohio State team was just, loaded all the way around. Really good offensive line, 2 NFL running backs, NFL quarterback, a lot of defensive players, one of the best safeties in the country. I think that, you got to remember early on, Riley Leonard is the reason why they scored that opening drive. And then to me, it was really Notre Dame kind of got in their own way with some procedural penalties that set them behind. And I mean, if we're being honest, last year's defense really didn't do much against Ohio State in the first half when it mattered most.
Yeah, I mean, you had last year's defense against Ohio State, and look at the points that they gave up, So, we already saw that. Now, would this year's offense have made things more interesting? Probably so, but are we also, this is a hypothetical, but are we also assuming Jeremiah Love is 100% healthy? Because that was a fact. He obviously played in last year's game, and really after the Indiana game, he wasn't 100%, so like that was a factor. So, always fun hypotheticals. They are hypotheticals, though. You're merging a couple of different teams. I think it could have at least been maybe a little bit closer, but again, we already saw last year's defense against Ohio State, and that unfortunately didn't work out very well. And there was generational talent on that Ohio State offense as well. I think you got yourself muted there on your end.
Dog was barking there a little bit. I just think that that Ohio State team just had so much talent regardless. I don't know if there was a team in the country that was beating them. Someone's going to say, well, Michigan beat them. Well, I think Ohio State beat themselves in that game. I will be curious to see, though, if Michigan can pull off the three-peat this year.
I know.
And beat Ohio State, because Ohio State on paper, not as good as last year, and I think Michigan on paper is better than last year. So,
do you want that to happen, though? Do you want that, like where Michigan is? Could they make enough headway to cause some trouble at the back end where Notre Dame is sitting in the playoff rankings?
I don't think so, especially if USC beats Oregon. I think Notre Dame beat USC, USC beat Michigan, and they'd all have 2 losses. So I would still keep Notre Dame.
That's true. There. You do have that, but with this committee, who knows? Who knows exactly what they would think. Randall McMurphy, 59 in the YouTube chat. By the way, interesting, all the handles in the YouTube chat, it looks like, have changed. Remember that happened a while back, and it looks like it's happened again. He said three-peat. Yeah, because this would be 3 consecutive wins for Michigan over Ohio State is what you were saying, right?
Yeah. Yep.
All right, so Marcus Freeman did hold his weekly Thursday Zoom call and touched on a few different topics, and I think the most noteworthy thing that he talked about is something we talked about earlier in the week. You weren't here when we talked about Jaden Greathouse earlier in the week, but on Monday, before Marcus Freeman's first press conference this week, like the fully public, on camera, out there for the world to see press conference, Jaden Greathouse was listed as questionable with the hamstring injury that has kept him out of these last 6 games for the Fighting Irish. He is not on today's updated injury report. And so earlier this week, I asked Freeman if they've had conversations about, do you just sit Jaden Greathouse these last couple of games, play for December, let him get healthy, you preserve the red shirt, all that kind of stuff, you have him ready to go for the postseason. And Marcus Freeman at that point said yes. But again, he was listed as questionable on Monday. Now he's not on the injury report today, so no injury designation for Jaden Greathouse. And so with him coming off the injury report today, the subject of the red shirt came up again. And here's what Marcus Freeman said.
I know we've asked about him a lot lately, but Jaden Greathouse, I think this is the first time he's been off the injury report in a long time. Is the plan still to redshirt him if you can? And is that game flow dictated? Like, if you guys get up early like you did against Pitt, it's okay, we probably don't need him here, so we're not going to play him?
No, it is more, it was when he finally got to the point where we felt like he could help our team and play at a high level because of his health. I kind of had a discussion with him and Coach Denbrock and our offensive staff, and what's best for the team, but also what's best for the young player, the person. Like, we have 2 games left, and if we don't have to play him, it would give him another year because he didn't redshirt. And so we want to be able to do that. And so we want to try to treat him like the other freshmen that you want to play 4 games and not obviously burn their red shirt. If something happens, right, and we feel like we have to put him in the game, then we will. And he will be the first one to say, put me in, coach. If you need me to go out there to help our team win, then he's a team first guy. But I want to try as best as we can is not burn his red shirt if we can in the last 2 games.
Okay, so there you have the answer from Marcus Freeman. Is there any reason, Jesse, that Jaden Greathouse should play against either Syracuse this week or Stanford next week when you hear that, especially explanation?
No, there's zero reason that Greathouse should play against Syracuse and Stanford. We've seen what Notre Dame's been able to accomplish, in the games that he's been absent this season. I don't think he's an X factor game plan wise against teams like Syracuse and Stanford. And while it would be great to have him back for the playoffs, I don't even know if it's worth burning him, potentially for 1 or 2. Like, you just don't know how far the playoffs are going to go.
Well,
And
none of those games count for eligibility, though. Those are all exempt from the eligibility. So that's like you get past these two games, and then whether it's your bowl game or playoffs, you don't have to worry about anything after these next two games, counting against eligibility wise. That's why, you just sit these two games, get healthy, and then you can still use him for whatever you want in December, January, as long as you play.
Yeah, I didn't realize that those don't count against eligibility. So to me, it's a no-brainer. You sit them out these two games, you get them, and the thing is too is if Notre Dame does end up in the playoff, there's at least a 2, maybe 3 week gap before that first playoff game.
Mm-hmm.
So he would have, these 2 weeks plus those 2-3 weeks plus the weeks that he's been, doing recovery. He would come back absolutely 100% come playoff time. So. Again, their wide receiver room between Faison, Fields, Pauling, Raritan, maybe Cam Smith, like they should be fine against Syracuse and Stanford.
No, I mean, they're more than fine against Syracuse and Stanford. And if you've got a guy who's been injured, which obviously Jaden Greathouse has, and he's sitting on that 4 games, there is zero reason you don't need Jaden Greathouse to beat either Syracuse or Stanford. It's not even Pittsburgh, and we know what Pittsburgh ended up being, but it's my point is it's not a team with a winning record. It's not a ranked team. It's none of those things. It's not even Navy for that matter. You don't need Greathouse to beat either one of these next two teams. You've been great with what you've had. Let him get healthy. And then, like you're talking about X factors, the X factor is, okay, now he's 100%. And, if anything, maybe you've had to push some of these starters a little bit more than what you would have wanted to, between the fact that you do have a guy like Greathouse who is injured. Micah Gilbert has been injured, and these other guys are less experienced. So now if you get him back in December for a playoff push or a bowl game or whatever it happens to be, at that point, he becomes a potential huge X factor. So, yeah, there's zero reason to play him in either one of these games. And, from a technicality standpoint, you take him off the injury list because they're saying that he's healthy now, so he's not questionable. But again, it just feels like there's zero reason, like you're saying, well, he would be the first guy. He's a team guy. He'd be the first guy to do it. And I believe that he would be the first guy to do it. But yeah, exactly what Outbound is saying. Burning his red shirt for Syracuse and or Stanford is coaching malpractice. That's exactly what it is. And, as Freeman has said the whole time, they're doing it, for him, obviously. And so if you're doing this for him, then you're not going to put him in a situation where you would put him on the field against either one of those teams. It makes zero sense.
I think injury-wise, I'm more caught up of when Shrouth and Jagasaw could make a return more so than Greathouse. I think those guys have a much bigger impact on the rest of the season. And I'm not saying that they need those guys for Stanford or Syracuse, but in terms of guys potentially coming back, I feel like those two offensive linemen carry more weight than what Jaden Greathouse would.
Right. I mean, based on especially like what we've seen Fields and Faison, and what they've been able to do in terms of leading the wide receiver unit, then I would put Pauling number 3 behind him. Like I think there's a completely different level that the offensive line can go to if you get Shrouth and Jagasaw back, in comparison to reintroducing Greathouse back into the mix. Because, again, like we saw last year, what kind of difference maker Greathouse can be, and he did carry the receiver unit those last couple of games with the production that he had, and that's what we thought that we were going to see from him this year. But even when he was healthy this year, like they were just never able to completely get him in the mix. And, in terms of like he had 4 total catches in the 4 games that he was out there, and, it was like 2 each in 2 different games. So like it feels like whatever you want to call it, playoff practice, bowl practice, that period, like he can come back in and sort of build up that chemistry and stuff like that with CJ Carr and getting back in the mix. but you don't quite need, like you don't have to think like for offensive linemen, there's not the same timing and precision and all these different things. It's just a matter of Billy Schrauth and Charles Jagasaw are people movers, like they can come in and just be physical at the point of contact. And again, it feels like that really helps take Notre Dame to the next level, especially if you start advancing in the playoffs and you're going up against some of these bigger and more physical teams. Or even like, if you get Oregon in the first round, which is obviously a distinct possibility, like I don't think skill-wise Oregon is as good as last year, but they're physical. They're physical, I think, on Notre Dame's level. And so getting Schrauth and Jagasaw back would be huge for Notre Dame in a matchup like that.
I agree. I think not to go down, too far of a tangent, but I'm going to learn a lot about Oregon this weekend against USC. Not that USC is some, measuring stick of a team, but I just outside of Penn State, I really haven't in IU. I just haven't seen Oregon do anything, and they took 2 overtimes versus Penn State, and we know Penn State really wasn't as good as they were, and IU basically manhandled them in Eugene. So. Just I need another data point on Oregon, and I feel like this is a good week, good matchup with USC.
Yeah. Joe's asking in the YouTube chat if Jags has been brought up lately in updated timeline. There has been nothing because it's probably been a month or so since I asked about him, and he basically said, Marcus Freeman basically said he was hopeful at some point that he would come back, but there was never anything out there. So next week will be the last time we get to talk to him before the playoff selection and all that kind of stuff, next week before the game and then after the game. And then that'll be it for maybe a week or so. We'll get a week or so off until after the playoff and that kind of thing. So maybe it gets addressed next week. So another player that Marcus Freeman talked about in his Zoom call today, Jaylen Sneed, one of the highest rated recruits Marcus Freeman has had in his time here at Notre Dame. And he's obviously had a lot more impact the last couple of seasons after coming in with some pretty lofty expectations. And here's some thoughts that Marcus Freeman had on Jaylen Sneed.
Yeah, I think about, when I first met Jaylen down in Hilton Head, South Carolina, and obviously I have a long relationship with his high school head coach. And, to get a young man like him to choose Notre Dame is a huge reason why I do what I do. Like I don't know if he understood the value of this place before he decided to come here, but we had a relationship, and Notre Dame football speaks for itself. And then what you've done is seen him grow, and he's matured a ton since he's been here, not only as a football player but as a person. And so, there's been ups and downs in his life, like everybody else's, and to get him to understand, you just keep going, you keep battling, you learn from the past, you learn from the mistakes, and you get better because of it. It's special to be on the journey with him and really everybody in this program, and especially our seniors.
All right, so there you hear Marcus Freeman talking about Jaylen Sneed. How would you kind of summarize Sneed's career, Jess?
Yeah, I think the best way to describe Sneed's career is just kind of late bloomer. I think someone who had a lot of, the raw skills and talents coming out of high school, but might not have necessarily understood the X's and O's of football to move with the clarity and the velocity that Marcus Freeman talks about. And then you have to also realize that the linebacker position at Notre Dame has been, plentiful throughout Jaylen Sneed's career. And really, ever since, linebacker has always been a solid position at Notre Dame, in my opinion, but in general, I haven't seen as much depth at the linebacker position since Marcus Freeman took over as defensive coordinator and then head coach. You just seen a ton of depth at the linebacker position. So linebacker isn't what it used to be. It used to be, a guy who would be on the field the entire game. Now it's like, majority of the defensive line positions. There's a lot of rotation. There's a lot of, packages coming in and out depending on skill set. So I just think when I think of Sneed, I think of someone who's just continuously gotten better, a little bit of a late bloomer. And I think someone who still has their best football on the horizon.
Yeah, I don't know if Brian Kelly was still here, if Jaylen Sneed, one, would have come to Notre Dame, 2, if he would have stayed at Notre Dame, and 3, turned out to have the impact that he's had. Now, again, like, is he a full-time guy? No, but I like what they've done these last 2 years with the rotation of all these different guys and really being able to capitalize on the strengths of the different guys. His best stuff is still as a pass rusher, but look, because of the high rating that he had coming out of high school, he wasn't happy when they told him he was going to redshirt as a freshman, that it was going to take a little while. And again, there are a lot of guys who come in with that high expectation and, both internally and externally, the expectations that come with that big star rating, who would have said, well, I'm not playing, I'm going to go someplace else. And some other guys have come here and done that. And he stuck it out. He stayed the course. It's been incremental, but it's blossomed a lot more these last couple of years. So you credit him for sticking him out, and also credit the coaching staff for keeping him engaged and keeping him involved and just what he's become. Again, like going back to that rotation that they've got with these guys these last couple of years and being able to just say, well, he can't play every down, so there's not a place for him. They still found a place for a guy with the skill and athleticism of a guy like Jaylen Sneed and other guys in that room as well. So I think it's worked out really well. And as he said at his media earlier this week, he's going to get his degree here in a few weeks as well at Notre Dame. So good for him. I think it's worked out for everybody all the way around.
I agree, and I think that's the point that Marcus Freeman makes to a lot of these guys is, if you take care of what you're supposed to, you'll get your degree, you'll earn some sort of playing time, and then if Jaylen Sneed, thinks that playing time isn't enough, and thinks that he wants a full kind of season under his belt because of future aspirations, then they have that option after not doing their time, but putting in the work and getting their degree to go on and maybe get a fifth year or an extra year somewhere else. We've seen plenty of Notre Dame guys do that, guys who have an impact, but maybe aren't a full-blown starter or getting the full-blown minutes, earn their degree, and then go on to play another year somewhere else.
We're going to take a break. When we come back, more comments from Marcus Freeman, including some of his thoughts on the Syracuse quarterback, Joe Filardi, who's going to be making his second career start this Saturday at Notre Dame Stadium. We'll do that. Jesse's got a little whiteboard action. We're going to talk about some quarterback stuff in a few minutes here as well. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. We continue with Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com, along with Jesse Stiers. I'm Sean Stiers. We got Notre Dame football coming up Saturday. I'll remind you that we will not have a show tomorrow because of Notre Dame women's basketball hosting Southern Cal. We've got that coming up, 6 o'clock tip-off tomorrow at Purcell Pavilion and here on the Notre Dame Radio Network, including Sports Radio, WSBT, and the Odyssey app, AUDACY. So, Jesse, Syracuse is going to start a freshman quarterback, not just a freshman quarterback, a former walk-on named Joe Filardi this week. Marcus Freeman shared some thoughts on him with the media earlier today. Here it is.
Yeah, you obviously watched the North Carolina game and part of the Miami game, and he's got talent. I see why he's playing. He's a slippery, I like to say a slippery, sneaky, like athletic. He reminds me actually a lot of the quarterback we just saw versus Pitt. And they find a way to extend plays with their legs. You think you have a clean shot at him, and you can't get him down. They have some design quarterback runs with him, and he can throw the ball. He wouldn't be playing for him if he couldn't throw the ball. And so we're preparing for all three. I don't know how much our game plan will truly change depending on who's at quarterback, but we have to understand the target on a quarterback. We have to make sure we do not open up vertical lanes for the quarterback to escape and extend plays, because we saw that earlier in the year. And you see it again in every game. If you let the quarterback escape vertically and extend plays with his legs, either running or in the pass game, it presents problems for the defense. So we have to be able to give him some different looks. But he's a good player, and they got good skill. I mean, their tight end's really good. Right, they used two of them, but 89, he's a good player. I think their wideouts are good. 2 and 15 have shown up, and the running back number 6, and they got another one, 24, that they can use in the pass game a lot. It's like this is a good team, and all you got to do is watch film, and you'll see it. So we got a great challenge, and the 13 will be a challenge for our team.
Okay, 13 will be a challenge. Joe Filardi, freshman quarterback. He's going to be making his second start, and outbound in the YouTube chat saying he has 7 passes? Well, he has 7 completions. He is 7 of 21 for a total of 78 yards in the 2 games he's played in against North Carolina and Miami. Jesse, going with Filardi is blank for Syracuse.
It's a bold move, Cotton. But
yes. You stole my line.
It's a very bold move. The thing is, if you're Syracuse, like, what other option do you have, and what do you have to lose at this point in the season? But I have to commend Marcus Freeman, because he's watched a lot of tape when he only refers to players by their numbers, not by names, by numbers. That's how Marcus Freeman has been grinding a lot of film. But
he's been grinding it.
I just think that like Syracuse is in for a long day. Look at what Notre Dame did against Pitt.
Man,
Pitt's quarterback is much better than the Syracuse quarterback. Pitt has more resources along the offense than Syracuse has. I just think, and again, I hate saying this, but I really feel like this game is going to turn ugly quickly. And I think the Notre Dame defense is going to be like vultures on this young quarterback, making his day miserable, quite honest. And I think that's why Marcus Freeman talked about rush lane integrity, because I think things are going to collapse on him. He's going to panic.
He's going to have to.
Yeah, he's going to look to run and make plays with his feet, extend plays, not take sacks, that sort of stuff. So, again, I just think it's going to be a long day for Syracuse if Notre Dame does what they're supposed to.
He's played parts of 2 games, and he's been sacked 4 times combined. Against North Carolina, he was 4 of 18 for 39 yards, 7 carries for 8 rushing yards. That's because he was sacked 3 times. But this guy is going to be fending for his life out there, I think. It's like it shows you how much Steve Angeli meant to Syracuse, the fact that they were able to go on the road and beat Clemson early in the season. Because, like Marcus, Fran Brown is a good coach. He showed that last year. He showed that early on this year, but things fell apart pretty quickly after Angeli got hurt. And as ND Forever 72 says, spoken like Lou Holtz would have. I mean, Marcus Freeman really talked him up. But it's just, I just, you know, you're right. They don't have really any options because they benched Ricky Collins, and Collins was just not playing well. At this point, he has 7 total touchdowns and 11 turnovers, 6 passing touchdowns, 1 rushing touchdown, 10 interceptions, and 1 fumble. He's only completing 53% of his passes. Now, that's the guy that Syracuse got to transfer from LSU that was battling with Angeli for the starting quarterback job back during their fall training camp. So it's just they don't have option. Their only other option is Luke Carney, who's also a freshman, and he's played in 3 games, and apparently Fran Brown said they're trying to preserve his red shirt. So they have 2 games to go, so you obviously can't play him in both games. They've kind of got to pick their poison, I guess, and so they are going with this true freshman, former walk-on, Joe Filardi, and it just feels like it's going to be really, really disastrous. Syracuse. That's how it feels to me.
It feels like it's going to be a nice day.
I mean, it feels like it's set
day.
up like that Boston College game. Remember a couple years ago when it snowed, like that BC game? That's what it feels like to me, that senior day game. But
I agree.
Outland says, I really wish Angeli was playing. It would have been all about Angeli getting revenge all week. I mean, there are both sides of this. Like, would you rather see Steve Angeli starting coming into this game?
No. I don't need all the storylines.
Because I think it would have only been about that. You know?
And I also like, and this is just probably me, that's a myth, but I just feel like if Steve Angeli was playing it, it has a much higher probability for a trap game.
True. So like you'd rather just have the Notre Dame walkover than
yes. Well, because Angeli's played here before. Obviously, there's the adrenaline of wanting to beat your old team, and then the potential of Notre Dame pressing too much / overlooking Syracuse on the the back half of these last 2 games. Again, I'm just being very pessimistic here, but I don't want any more reason for potential losses at this point in the season. I just want to get through the rest of these, or get through these last 2 games. And then hopefully see Notre Dame in the first round of the playoffs.
Right. Like Justin Indy Sniper in the YouTube chat says it could have been a ranked game if Angeli never got hurt. True. Very well could be a ranked game. But at this point, I just don't think it matters, because if Notre Dame takes care of business based on, we've spent a lot of time talking about the playoff rankings this week. The fact that Notre Dame is 9th and not 10th this week.
Huge. All
they've got to do is take care of their business this week and next week, and it doesn't matter if these teams are ranked or not. So the fact that they're 9th, they take care of business, they're fine. They're going to be in.
I might buy my ticket to that home game at 2 a.m. when that Stanford game ends.
Is that when they go on sale?
That's when we bought them last year, was right after the USC game. Like, it still said TBD on it. I don't know if you remember that, because I just don't think they set date and time yet, but people already were selling their tickets. So I'm going to go with the same approach this year.
And obviously there's no guarantee that they still have to work their way into getting a
home
being
playoff game
and all that kind of stuff beyond just getting into the playoff, obviously. All right. Yeah. You got that board ready to go?
I guess so.
You want to do it?
I guess so.
Okay, so Marcus Freeman, we've been playing some of his comments, talking about some of his comments from his Zoom call today. Notre Dame has had had its short yardage issues this season, and there are plenty of people who want to see CJ Carr go under center in those situations. So Marcus Freeman asked today about the disadvantages of putting the quarterback under center in those situations. So we'll hear Marcus Freeman's comments first.
Yeah, you obviously watched the North Carolina game and part of the Miami game, and he's got talent. I see why he's.
Oh, sorry, wrong one. I ended up playing the same cut over again. I didn't get it ready to go. Here we go. I promise this will be the right one this time. They both said QB. That's what threw me off.
It's really risk versus reward, and when 90 whatever percent of the time that you take a snap, it's in the gun. It's like, hey, in that moment, right, when you're so close to the end zone, or maybe it's a short yard situation, is that something you want to commit to? We did it when we were backed up in the Pitt game, and it's something we practiced, but we didn't have much success on that quarterback sneak either. So there's no, right, nothing, I'm not going to say anything negative about it. You just got to commit to it and say you want to be under center, but you got to practice it. And, it's like, do you practice that? How much does that take away from the plays that you have to run out of the gun? And so that probably is the biggest reason why in those moments we haven't done that. We are committed to the gun, and we might reconsider.
See, and that's the thing, like, what, that part that he's saying there, like, I think that's what a lot of people are missing, because even when guys get to the NFL, people are still talking about, well, this guy's been in college. He's been in the shotgun the whole time. He's never taken snaps under center. Well, there are so few snaps taken under center at any level these days, unless you're a triple option quarterback. And even look at Navy, even they're doing shotgun stuff now. Like, there's so little stuff under center. It's basically a completely different muscle that you have to exercise, because you're asking both the center and the quarterback to do something that's almost completely foreign to them right now, since there's so much shotgun stuff. Don't you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, the shotgun stuff can be foreign, and I think the more that we progress in football, the more that we start to move away from going under center. But I do believe going under center has a time and place, and I think it going under center is something that could make sense for Notre Dame, in my opinion, just because of what they are really good at on offense.
All right. I tell you what, we're going to find out the time and place for under center after the break. We're going to take a quick timeout, and then Jesse is going to impart some of what he thinks could be some under center stuff for CJ Carr and Notre Dame in these said short yardage situations. We're going to do that coming up next when we complete this hour. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Winding down hour number 1 of Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com, along with Jesse Stiers. I'm Sean Stiers. What happened to the board? What happened? Where'd it go?
Disappeared. Should be back now.
All right. Here we go. So we were talking about quarterback under center stuff. So what are your thoughts on this? Like, can it be something that Notre Dame can it make Notre Dame more effective, I guess, in short yardage situations?
I think going under center. So here's what I'll say. Like, when you look into the concept of going under center versus shotgun, statistically, there's not enough to lean one side or the other that says this is better than the other. It usually comes down to preference and comfortability. But my caveat with that would be, we've watched Notre Dame all season going shotgun, and it hasn't worked. So at this point,
we've also seen him try wildcat, and it hasn't worked.
Right. And so both shotgun snaps. And so if it just comes down to preference, because statistically you get about the same chances of outcome, then if I'm Notre Dame, why am I doing, the definition of insanity, same thing over and over again, expecting a different result, but not getting different. Yeah. And so in my opinion, it's time to try something different. And the reason why it makes sense to me to go under center is because, I mean, again, there's pros and cons to both. The biggest pro that you have going under center is your running back can get downhill now, right? Like, you're meeting essentially the quarterback at the line of scrimmage, either direction, and a handoff, versus if you're in shotgun, you have to run 4 or 5 yards just to get back to the line of scrimmage. So there's already an advantage in that situation. And when you talk about the strong points of Notre Dame's offense, it's their offensive line and obviously their Heisman level running back. And so to me, if you're telling me that Notre Dame can't go big on big, meaning your linemen are just blocking in front of them downhill, there's no, zone scheme or duo scheme, you're just blocking big on big downhill and handing your ball off. And if you're telling me that can't get you 1 or 2 yards, then I'm sorry. Again, I just don't think Notre Dame deserves to be in the conversations of, one of the best offenses, and certainly not some of the best offenses come playoff time, because you have to be able to execute on short yardage, and especially short yardage in the goal line. Like, they can't be leaving 3 extra points, 4 extra points off the board by settling for a field goal, or potentially going for it and not getting it, and leaving even more points off the board. So again, if I'm Notre Dame, I think that you have to use your advantages the best you can. That's a really physical offensive line and a really talented, physical running back. And so when Notre Dame goes into these shotgun situations, it's just like, why are we, especially because we see so many runs inside the tackle with this offense, why are we going shotgun just to hand the ball off inside the tackles? If you're going to go shotgun, that's fine, but I'd like to see Notre Dame press the edge a little more with their running backs. And again, I don't understand too, like, let me undo a couple things here and move some guys around. But even if you do go shotgun, Notre Dame still has a bad tendency of just, again, running the ball right in between the tackles. And it's like, well, what happened to Jeremiah Love just potentially catching a swing pass out of the backfield? Or, what happened to, and it worked last weekend against Pitt, just going back to straight up QB power between the tackles. So my biggest thing is if you're going to do shotgun, let's get a little bit more creative and not just hammer between the tackles. But I think if you get under center too, another concept that would really bode well for Notre Dame is the play action. And the reason why I'd say that is because if you go under center as Notre Dame with the offensive line that you have, and everyone knows what Jeremiah Love can do, everyone is going to get amped up and sell out to the run. You have one of the best receiving tight ends in the country, and you also have one of the best receiving running backs in the country. And so just a simple
And you also
design
have
that
arguably the best 50-50 wide receiver who is a big guy in the country.
Right. And so I think just going under center, a very easy concept that you can get into is obviously any sort of downhill run. But if you play action off of that run, you can still get a flood concept where you're getting Eli Raridan, 7 yards out route. Jeremiah Love is at the goal line essentially on an out route after the play action. And then if you have Malachi Fields as the field wide receiver, he could basically run some sort of corner route or, like you were saying, 50-50 ball. So now you've really put the defense in a bind because this area of the field, they have 3 players to cover in a one-on-one situation. And we've seen how Malachi Fields is in one-on-one. We've seen how Eli Raridan is on one-on-one. And we've seen how Jeremiah Love is in one-on-one. And so when you go shotgun, you can't – there is – like play action isn't a thing because it's just that mesh handoff. So, like, it's so easy as a linebacker to diagnose, all right, this really isn't a play action or this is, because you're seeing it, live time in the backfield. But when you go under center,
really hiding the ball. You're like
right, you're not hiding the ball at all. But if you go under center, you can hit a hard play fake. That quarterback that like you've seen before, the quarterback kind of hides it behind their hip pocket a little bit, and now you bootleg out, and you have all 3 of these options probably one-on-one somewhere. So another thing that we've noticed too is when Notre Dame goes shotgun, they're not really ever passing the ball. And the times that they have passed the ball, what has CJ Carr done? He's turned the ball over. We've seen him have multiple red zone turnovers against North Carolina State and USC where he's trying to go out of shotgun and make something out of nothing out of a pass play. So if I'm Notre Dame and I'm predominantly running in these situations, well, why don't we get under center? Why don't we take that 4 or 5 yards away, and give it back to our running back? Because instead of handing the ball off 4 yards behind our line of scrimmage, our running back is meeting them at the line of scrimmage. And if you can't get 1 yard with your offensive line and that running back at the line of scrimmage, then again, in my opinion, you don't deserve to be considered, one of the best teams in college football at the end of the day.
But the other part of the play action to the running back is the guy, the running back, obviously, who you fake it to him. He ends up more times than not, that guy ends up getting lost in the wash, and then he pops out of all that traffic in the middle, and he usually ends up being wide open because of the fact that you have faked it to him. And so there's like that little, sort of bit of confusion, and then he pops out, and more times than not, that running back, when he comes out of that initial pile, he's uncovered most of the time. And you got a guy like Jeremiah Love uncovered and out there in space with a nice little layup. He's going to get you quite a bit of yards more times than not.
Yeah, and another kind of scheme or concept that I really like under center as well, and I feel like you and I have seen this so many times, a play that always seems to be wide open in the Shanahan, McVay, McDaniels tree, and I mean, you correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like you see this play so many times in the NFL. These quarterbacks go under center, you fake a handoff to the left with your running back, and then that play side tight end sneaks backside into the flat. So all CJ Carr has to do is fake this handoff, roll out to the right, and more often than not, that tight end is wide open underneath in the flat just by going opposite play direction off of the handoff. So again, I'm not up here advocating that Notre Dame needs to go under center because it's statistically better than going out of shotgun. It really is truly a preference, but as a team that wants to run the ball and be very physical at the line of scrimmage, and a team that doesn't have a lot of success passing in the red zone, why not give under center a shot? Because shotgun truly only helps your quarterback in passing situations. So if you're a run-heavy team and you want to be this physical between the tackle run, well, why not just get under center and cut down the amount of yards that you have to have? And so a lot of people are going to say, well, when you go under center, there's a higher chance of fumble, a botched, exchange between center and quarterback. I get all that, but I mean, if you want to be an NFL quarterback, you got to play under center. Like Jackson Dart got under center this year for the Giants, right? Like there's going to be a time, I think, where you're going to have to get under center. So why not give something else a try? Because clearly what's working or what they're trying isn't working. And if you want to be this run team in these short yardage situations, then being under center actually makes more sense.
Yeah, I mean, you're running out of time to solve it at this point. They have just not been good there in those situations all year long. And once you get into the playoffs or your bowl game, whatever it happens to be, once you get out of the regular season and into the next phase, like things don't just magically get solved. Whatever are issues in, over the course of an entire 12-game regular season tend to also be magnified and be even bigger issues when you're playing better teams in the postseason. That's just the way it works. And for Notre Dame right now, that is short yardage / deep red zone type situations, and it is place kicking. Like those are the two biggest issues that could end up really coming back to bite Notre Dame once you get into the postseason.
And those are big issues to have because you're leaving points off the board against really good other teams. Like in games where it sounds cliche, but points are going to matter, right? So if you don't trust your kicker between, let's say, 35 and 50 yards, and you need to pick up an extra first down, well, you need plays that are going to work. And then if you're down in the red zone and goal to go situations, again, we talked about it, you can't leave 3 or 4 points off the board by not being able to capitalize. So, and I mean, we saw Notre Dame go shotgun against Pitt in that 4th down play and try to run the rub route with Raritan. That still didn't work. So it's like clearly everything you're doing out of shotgun isn't working. And you want to be this physical downhill run game. So get under center, hand the freaking ball off, go big on big. And then after enough times of that, you can hit a hard play action and you have really good one-on-one wide receivers between Malachi Fields, Eli Raritan, and Jeremiah Love. Someone's got to get open between those three off a hard play action.
Or as Randall McDaniel or Randall McMurphy says, or just take a penalty and give CJ Carr.
There's always that option too.
And so we were joking about that a few games ago. I can't remember which game it was in the press box at Notre Dame. It's like, well, you're deep in the red zone. Just take a holding call and move back 10 yards and give yourself more room, and you're going to have a better opportunity to actually punch it into the end zone. All right, good stuff. We'll take a timeout. When we come back, it is rapid fire time in hour number 2, the 6 o'clock hour. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. We roll into hour number 2 of Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat, and that can mean only one thing. Jesse, are you ready for rapid fire?
I am ready for rapid fire, but I wanted to do a quick little story real quick, if you don't mind.
Okay. All right.
So
I am
just like
board here, so that's why my faces that I've been making. So go ahead.
You messed up the board, or I messed up the board?
I did.
Okay. I was like, man, he's really mad at me, but I don't even know what I did. No, but last night, this is just, the Jesse betting saga.
Oh, here we go. NBA season is here. College basketball season is here. Here we go.
That's right. So last night was watching the Cavs game. Their power forward, Evan Mobley, does really well, or power forwards do really well against the Rockets. So I was like, you know what? I told myself I wasn't going to bet on the NBA this season, but I really like this matchup. So here's what I'm going to do. Evan Mobley's line was at 18.5 points. And I was like, well, 18.5 points, if he gets 19, he's probably going to get 20, right? So I just took his 20 plus for like plus 130 or something. I put $50 on it. Start of the third quarter rolls around. He's got 18 points to start the third quarter. Guess what he doesn't do the entire fourth quarter?
Play.
Score a point. Guess also what else he did? 0 for 6 from the free throw line.
Ouch. Man.
0 for 6. So his line was at 18.5.
So all he needed was 2 free throws.
2 free throws, but his line was 18.5. He stops at 18, misses 6 free throws in the fourth quarter. And it's just like, how do the books always get this right? Like, how did they know my man was going to miss 6 free throws in the fourth quarter? And on top of that, he missed 2 other shots. So he was 0 for 2 from the field, and he was 0 for 6 from the free throw line. And I just needed 2 more points.
Does this count as a bad beat? Like, is that like
that's gotta be a bad beat? What do you mean?
Is SVP like, is he taking submissions for like personal bad beats these days?
I would have one every week, I think.
I think you probably would. All right. Well, you've made it through. You seem well adjusted today. You're not completely down in the dumps about it, but yeah, maybe you're just as Brian said, a total degenerate.
Hey, you and I have been on a hot streak with the indie stuff the last couple of weeks, so I can't complain.
I thought we missed one a couple weeks ago.
I think there was. I had the one.
Oh, that's right. That's right. I missed mine. I have to rely on you because when I try to build them, mine always miss. That's what it is. That's what it is.
But yeah, I've been on a little bit of a hot streak with the Notre Dame stuff, so can't complain. And of course, Thursday Night Football is tonight, so maybe I have something ready for that.
Maybe this is up your alley then, since you've been on a hot streak with the Notre Dame stuff. We'll see with his first question here. Jeremiah Love has 1,135 rushing yards currently. He has 303 yards from passing Vegas Ferguson's Notre Dame single season record of 1,437 yards. So he's got 2 games to go in the regular season, 4 quarters per game. And he's also, of course, got 1 guaranteed postseason game to play. So how many quarters of football will Jeremiah Love need to break Vegas Ferguson's record, needing 303 yards? How many quarters is it going to take him?
Oof, this is a tough question because, you look at Syracuse, and we just talked about how ugly that game could get. We know how ugly potentially the Stanford game could get because it's like, so in both of those games, he could theoretically be out at halftime, maybe the third quarter. We really don't see Notre Dame starters come out, I feel like, until the start of the third quarter. I think that playoff game would also be helpful because he's likely going to play the entire playoff game. So my math is going to be 3 quarters for Syracuse, 3 quarters for Stanford, 4 quarters in a postseason game. So I think he needs 10 of 12 quarters in the next 3 games to accomplish this.
That's where I'm at as well. I think it's going to take him 10. And if you look at his production and how it's kind of gone, if you take out the 228 that he had against Southern Cal, Jeremiah Love's best 2-game stretch this year, 251 combined yards against Purdue and Texas A&M. These last couple of weeks, he's combined for 241 yards against Navy and Pitt. So those have been his top, again, taking out the USC game. Those have been his top 2 game productions. 251 Purdue and Texas A&M, 241 Navy and Pitt these last couple weeks. Is heating up, though. And I mean, like when you think about how good a rushing defense Pitt was supposed to have. But then if you combine the back-to-back games, USC and Boston College, that's 364 yards in those 2 games right there. But the problem is, since the USC game, everybody's been afraid to play their safeties back. Everyone's just crowding the box now, because they don't want to see a repeat of what USC was dumb enough to do. So the way these next 2 games should go, I don't think that, kind of like what you were saying there, 3 quarters probably against Syracuse. I don't think that there's probably a shot that he's going to have more than 15 carries in either one of these next 2 games, and he shouldn't really be in the game in the fourth quarter. Brian in the YouTube chat says he thinks he's going to go for 200 plus in one of these next 2 games. I just feel like if he does that, it's going to be like in 10 carries, because then he's going to be out of the game. Do you think he'll actually get close to 200 in one of these couple games? Will he be in long enough to get 200 yards?
So I think that this comes down to, honestly, and I don't know if teams have these sort of conversations, but, Jeremiah Love is still trying to put together his Heisman reel or his Heisman run here to end the season. So, I like, whether they directly state it or not, I feel like it is kind of Notre Dame's obligation to make sure that he gets some touches before the game gets out of hand. And so I don't think it's crazy to think, we've seen him have these huge breakaway runs. I don't think it's crazy to see him have 3, 4, 5 kind of big runs against Syracuse that total, getting you over 100 yards. But I don't think that they're going to like run him like a battering ram by any means. It's just, he needs to be super efficient.
Is he going to have
touches?
Is he going to have 3 runs of 30 plus yards?
Right. I think yes.
He hasn't really had one of those games, because like even against USC, like he didn't, it wasn't like Boston College or Navy or Pittsburgh last week where he just had this massive run. It was just big, big chunks of like 10 to 15 yards all game. But Syracuse's defense is obviously a lot different as well. So you think he will? You think he'll have at least 3 big-time explosive plays?
I think he's going to have 100 yards by half against Syracuse.
Ooh, okay. I don't think I'm too far behind that. But then the question is, how much does he play in the second half? Really, that's the question for me. Because if the score, if they're up by 4+ touchdowns, I don't think he probably even sees the second half. I think you see more Jadarian Price, and then you'll get more Aeneas Williams, in there after that.
Yeah, and I think that plays well, though, into – they're going to give him his opportunities early on in those games to again, kind of make that Heisman run and then get him out of there for the rest of the game and reserve his health.
Right. Exactly. All right. So I think we're all along on the same page. Do you buy or sell all this continuing Notre Dame, Miami controversy rankings talk being good for the Fighting Irish?
My overall thought process on this is that I upfront want to say I want to sell this as being good for the Irish, just because I feel like the more and more people talk about it and get on this, people are going to be like, all right, you know what? We're done listening to people complain about it. We're just going to do it, right? Like we're going to listen to the people. But the logical side of my brain goes, well, there's really no such thing as bad publicity at the end of the day. Because I think the more people talk about Notre Dame, I think the more people, like the more national people dig in and say, well, really, if you look at what Notre Dame has done and you do watch what they had, you do watch the film on them, they're actually a really good team that is deserving of their spot. So I don't think that talking about this, again, no such thing as bad publicity. It brings that spotlight onto them. And I think it actually gets people to sit down and look at Notre Dame and say, you know what? When you watch them, they are pretty good. But the people who just blatantly say they don't deserve it, but don't put in the time and research, those are the idiots because they don't
Exactly.
know what they're talking about at the end of the day. Because if you talk to people who are true ball knowers that actually, study the game, watch a lot of film, they are invested into college football. And I'm not saying I'm one of those people. Like, I watch football, but it's not my career to sit down and be like a Nick Saban, a Kirk Herbstreit, those type of people. Those are the people who know Notre Dame is good. And I think that's what matters at the end of the day.
I am buying that it is good for Notre Dame because I do buy into, like in this specific case, I do buy into any publicity is good publicity. They are being talked about throughout this media cycle for weeks and days on end. Now, the ACC's taking shots at you. The Miami fans are crying about you. Alabama fans are mad at you. BYU fans are mad at you. Texas Tech's coaches taking shots at you. Pittsburgh's coaches taking shots at you. All this different stuff. The media's whining and crying that it's not fair, that you're getting ranked that the way you are. And, all of that is telling everyone else, including recruits, just how special you are. I mean, all they're doing is inadvertently telling all these kids, look at all these advantages that Notre Dame gets, And so if you're being recruited by Notre Dame, why wouldn't you want other schools and other, everyone else to be talking about you that way? All you're doing is telling everybody about all the advantages that Notre Dame has by being who they are, by being independent, by, supposedly getting all this special treatment and everything else. Now, like to your point, what cracks me up are these people saying that like the ACC needs to dump Notre Dame because Notre Dame, just beats all these ACC teams.
They're saying it's a net negative because they beat them and they take their playoff spots.
Right, take their playoff spots. And, well, how about the fact that Notre Dame also gives the ACC a better strength of schedule, for one? Like they also might want to check with the ACC about the, how the ACC actually feels about Notre Dame's contribution to the TV contract, because I think that the conference's bottom line just might disagree with just how good Notre Dame actually is for them, even though maybe they are taking a playoff spot away from them, potentially. But without Notre Dame, the ACC's TV contract pays less than it already does, even less than it already does. The ACC network doesn't exist. And then there's also, oh, by the way, all the increased butts in the seats anytime Notre Dame goes to, whether it's a football stadium in the ACC. Like when we were at Miami for the start of the season, this is Miami. This is supposedly, like the U and all this different stuff. The people who worked at Miami were like, oh man, we're actually going to sell this game out. Like they were talking about how basically nobody comes to most Miami games, but when Notre Dame's there, the place is full. And it goes, not just football games across the ACC that Notre Dame plays in, but all the other sports that Notre Dame plays in as well. Anytime a Notre Dame team shows up, more times than not. Now, unless it's like, like in basketball, if it's a Duke or a Carolina, obviously those games are always going to sell out. But all these other programs that don't necessarily sell out their arenas all the time in these other sports, when a Notre Dame team shows up, they sell more tickets for those games. So there is a huge financial impact that Notre Dame has across the sport. Now, obviously, the ACC would like to get more than one bid in the college football playoff because that is an even greater windfall. But there's a huge benefit for Notre Dame, obviously, in the ACC.
Yeah, I have two things. One, this is why I think it was completely out of line for the ACC football and ACC accounts to be tweeting those tweets that they've done in the last few weeks, talking about Team A, Team B, and this and that, because it's like, I get it, you're frustrated, but at the end of the day, Notre Dame does so much for the ACC conference, even if they're not a part of it for football. Mm-hmm. And like you just talked about TV deals, when Notre Dame goes on the road and plays these ACC teams, the amount of tickets that are there, the amount of viewership that is up, and so it's like, you're just shooting yourself in the foot when you make those stupid kind of remarks. And then second, kind of to diverge here a little bit and talking about the ACC network and the ACC, did you catch any of that Notre Dame and Bellarmine game last night on the ACC network?
I did not. I didn't even realize it was on the ACC network.
I don't know who was calling the game for the ACC network, but I have never heard a color guy be so bad. So bad.
Man,
But I
I'll
was
have to see if I can go back and find it.
just a lot of like double, like repeating the words a lot, stumbling over the words a lot. He kind of sounded Canadian. It was like, I don't know who it was, but he was so bad. And it's just, and it was the ACC network, so they should know about ACC teams, right? You would think. And
Yeah.
it felt like the guy was more knowledgeable on Bellarmine than he was Notre Dame as well. And it was just such a hard watch. I had to like turn it off because I was like, it is like there was no fluidity to the game because of like how bad this guy was. So
Man.
I don't know. I was hoping you could watch so I could.
Now, I was thinking it was on ACC Network Extra, which means like, like streaming as opposed to TV. So I missed that. So, all right, we're going to take a timeout. When we come back, more rapid fire. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Rolling on through the 6 o'clock hour with Rapid Fire, Budweiser's Weekday Sportsbeat with IrishBreakdown.com, along with Jesse Stiers. I'm Sean Stiers. So, Jesse, over under 7.5 combined sacks and turnovers Notre Dame will force against Syracuse's offense Saturday.
Are we counting turnover on downs?
No. True turnovers.
No.
Turning the ball
True
over.
turnovers. I'm going to take the over. I think Syracuse has maybe 2 or 3 turnovers, and I think they have at least 3 or 4 sacks. So, or their quarterback gets sacked 3 or 4 times. I just think this defense is turning it on at the right time. They really wreaked havoc last week on that young Pitt quarterback, and I don't think the Syracuse quarterback is any better. So I think that I'm going to be quite honest with you. I think Notre Dame might pitch their first shutout of the season.
Really? You're that
Put me on the board. Put me on the board.
I mean, that would be right in line with that Boston College game that I was talking about when it snowed, the snow globe game.
They're due for about 1 game per year where they either shut a team out or come really freaking close to a shutout. That's that game for Notre Dame this week. I think it's like 0 points or maybe, Syracuse sneaks in a wimpy field goal in the fourth quarter. But I'm going, mark me down right now, Notre Dame gets the shutout this weekend.
Randall said in the YouTube chat says he thinks Boubacar Traore gets 3 sacks by himself. I won't go as high as 3, but I'll say at least 2 that Boubacar's going to have. And again, the number is 7.5 combined sacks and turnovers by Syracuse's offense. Syracuse has been sacked. Their quarterbacks have been sacked 30 times this year, 8 total fumbles for the team, 12 interceptions. That is 50 total sacks and turnovers combined. So that's about 5 per game on average, and they haven't faced a defense on par with Notre Dame's defense, and especially what Notre Dame's defense has been doing these last few games. Notre Dame has 15 interceptions by themselves. It's odd that they haven't forced that many fumbles. They've only forced a couple. They don't have massive sack numbers, but I think that when you look at what Notre Dame's defense is doing, what Syracuse's offense, how floundering they've already been, I've got to go over. I think it's going to be at least 8 combined sacks and turnovers that Notre Dame's defense is going to force against this guy. And Randall says that I just pushed him the other direction, that he's going to make it 4 sacks now for Boubacar in this game.
Pat Narduzzi went for full-on Kurt Signetti and ruined Notre Dame's defense perfect streak of fourth quarter points this last week. Not perfect streak, but I mentioned last week it'd been a while since the Notre Dame defense had given up any points in the fourth quarter, and Pat Narduzzi couldn't help himself like Signetti and had to go down the field and prove a point on that last possession.
Do you think he knew that? And that's part of why he called that timeout? I didn't even think about that.
No, I just think he's so insufferable that he can't help himself.
That I agree with. That I totally agree with, for sure.
Had to make himself feel a little bit better about himself by getting those meaningless points in.
Uh-huh. So it is Senior Day, and Marcus Freeman is 3-0 as head coach on Senior Day at Notre Dame. He talked this week about having success on that particular day.
We do some things during the week to honor them as a team, and obviously we honor them as they run out Saturday before the game, but we always remind them they have to be able to, because it's an emotional moment as you run. I remember my son, you run out there for what is could be your last time in Notre Dame Stadium. But after you see your families and you get back to that sideline, you have to flip the switch back to competition mode. And it's something that you have to be proactive about as a coach to warn them and remind them, and then they got to do it. But I think it's more important to honor them the right way for what they've done for our program, how they've left this program better than they found it. And I think that's important to honor those guys.
I don't know when Senior Day became so popular. Obviously, you grew up in a Senior Day era. I grew up, like high school in the 80s, we didn't have senior day for anything. Like we never, like we didn't, like the parents didn't walk you out and, they didn't introduce you on the field. They didn't do any of that stuff like where I was anyway.
So are you telling me senior day is overrated? Is that what you're getting at?
I'm not saying that. I'm just saying I can't tell you from personal experience, like when you have, like other than experiencing senior day as a parent, and that's a little bit different, I think. So I don't know. Like neither one of us have ever run out of the tunnel at Notre Dame Stadium. Very few of us actually have had an experience like that. But like, so what do you think? Like, does senior day generally give you any reason for concern and, in terms of how players handle emotions and how that can impact them and that kind of stuff?
No, I do. I think that this would be a bigger deal if they had to line up against like USC this week. It always feels like senior day falls on a game that you feel is very manageable. I think that's
always
the
try
best.
to.
Yeah, like that's the best way to put it. It's the most manageable game because you do know all the other festivities and emotions that go into it. But I think Marcus Freeman does such a great job of turning those emotions into motivation and fuel. That's what makes him a really good head coach, is the way that he spins things into motivation and honoring these players like he talked about. And I think the most important thing that comes out of senior day, to be quite honest to you, is for the guys who don't necessarily get to play every snap, but put in all of the effort. Like they still put in the same amount of hours in practice. They still put in the same amount of hours in the film room, but they're the guys who don't necessarily see the spotlight because they're not the every down starter, right? And so to me, senior day is more or less about honoring the guys in football that might not have had the opportunity to play every week, to be the CJ Carr, to be the Jeremiah Love, to be the Leonard Moore, the Adon Schulers out there. So they get their kind of moment out there in front of the whole stadium where everyone is cheering for them as they're running out and they're greeted by their family and everything else.
Kind of a Rudy moment. You've spent most of the time in the shadows and behind the scenes and stuff like that. And then you finally get that moment in the sun where your name is called over the PA and you get to come out to the big roaring crowd and all that kind of thing.
Yeah. And I'm not saying that it takes it's any less meaningful for, the starters and those sort of guys, but I just think it means more. And it's a way to honor a lot of those guys that aren't the everyday names and starters, but are still going through the grind of, what it means to be on a football team.
So after Steve Angeli transferred at the end of the spring, do you remember when this topic came up? A lot of Notre Dame fans who we heard from who said Notre Dame should honor Steve Angeli on senior day, which is, of course, 2 days away now at this point, since he would be here with Syracuse. So are you in or out on that notion?
I'm out, and I think that there's even more people who want to be in because he's injured. He's not going to play. He graduated from Notre Dame, all those things. Listen, as soon as you transfer, you're the enemy. I have nothing for you once you become the enemy. Like we're friends. We can talk pregame. We can maybe, chat postgame and hug and do all that stuff. But if you wanted that senior day moment at Notre Dame, then you stay at Notre Dame. You'll get your senior day moment at Syracuse or wherever you decide to go when that time comes. But in terms of competing and lining up against a different team, we're enemies now. I have nothing more besides I want to beat you, and we're going to do everything that we're going to do over here, and you could do whatever you want over there.
You don't honor players from other teams for the same reason on senior day, for the same reason that you don't honor juniors who might be ready to declare for the NFL draft on senior day. Senior day is for players who finished in your program. Obviously, there are guys who will be recognized who maybe started at other programs, but they finished in your program. Those are the players you honor on senior day. Guys who have expiring eligibility and or, maybe they have a fifth year, but they have completed at least some part of this journey in your program. Those are the players you honor on senior day. You don't honor guys who transferred to another program, but who happened to be back on your senior day. And, now it's, you give them some kind of whatever recognition. That's who you honor on senior day. You honor guys who finished in your program. That's it. And, and again, like Jeremiah Love, I saw he was on the Pat McAfee show and he was asked about how much eligibility he had. And he didn't say anything about, exactly what his intentions are. He did say, yeah, I've got another year of eligibility, but like whether it's Jeremiah Love or any other draft eligible guy, like it's, good or bad, you don't honor juniors on senior day. If you still have eligibility left, you come back for the next year. And that's when you get honored, and otherwise, if you declare after your junior year, you come back years down the road after you're in the NFL and you get one of those timeouts and they say, hey, there's Michael Mayer, whoever it happens to be, and you get the cheer from the crowd. But yeah, you don't honor players from other teams, and you honor guys who finished in your program. That's who gets honored on senior day. So I'm with you. We're going to take our final timeout. We've got some comments from Steve Sarkisian, some stuff coming up with him down at Texas this week, some more Lane Kiffin stuff still brewing down there at Ole Miss and what's going on with his future. We'll do that and more when we return with more Rapid Fire, Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com. Winding down Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com and Rapid Fire with Jesse Stiers. I'm Sean Stiers. Got about 10 minutes to go here before we wrap things up. So we got time for a few more topics. A couple questions popped in the chat. Hulk Strongest 839. Do you think we see Tyler Buchner under center at all Saturday? What do you think about that? Blowout situation, fourth quarter. Do you think they let him take a snap or two?
Is this his senior year? Will he be going out there for senior day?
He is a senior now. Yep.
Yes, we will see Tyler Buchner in action.
You think so? Beyond just the holder, you think Tyler Buchner gets maybe a snap or two at the end of the game?
I think Tyler Buchner, here's how I think the game goes. I think Notre Dame's beating the snot out of Syracuse at halftime. I think they're beating the snot out of them going into the fourth quarter. I think Kenny Minchie gets, some of his game film out there. And then I think that at the very end of the game, they will give Tyler Buchner a series. We've seen it before. At every big-time blowout game, we see three quarterbacks from Notre Dame. It's just how it goes.
Especially senior day stuff.
At home, senior day.
We've seen walk-on quarterbacks out there on the field taking snaps at the end of games before. So
I think Carr goes just about till halftime. I think Kenny Minchie gets majority of the third quarter going into the fourth quarter, and I think Tyler Buchner gets a series or two to end the game.
Brian in the YouTube chat says, the Alabama transfer? No effing way. So I think he will. I think the opportunity presents itself if it's similar to that Boston College game we were talking about where it's a total blowout, which I think it's going to be. I think he gets an opportunity. Ken in the YouTube chat says, can Angeli be in pads? If so, do they put him in for a play to take a knee?
No.
Cheer or boo? One, we don't even know for sure if he's going to be here. We assume he's going to travel with them since they're coming here, but we don't know. We don't know that for sure. Two, no. Could he be in pads? Yes, you can put anyone in pads you want as long as he's on your roster, but I don't think that they would put him in pads, and I don't think that they would put him in, to take a knee. He does have an injured knee, so I'm sure they don't want him, kneeling on it. But let's say hypothetically all this stuff did happen. Do you think the crowd would cheer him or boo him if that were to happen?
They would cheer for him. There'd be no reason to boo Steve Angeli. What did Steve Angeli ever do to you, take away from you? A lot of people think he's this knight in shining armor because of what he did against Penn State last season. So I think that there would be nothing but cheers.
Man, Brian really does not like Tyler Buchner. He says he would cheer for Angeli, but boo the heck out of Buchner, even though Buchner came back as a walk-on.
Buchner got pried away by Tommy Rees and then came back because Notre Dame was home.
He got swindled by Tommy Rees.
Tommy Rees basically guaranteed him that he was going to be a starter at Alabama, and it never happened. So, I don't know what you want me to say there.
I know. Okay, so all this stuff going on with Steve Sarkisian down there at Texas. He said this week that he's not going anywhere amid reports of possible NFL interest. And then Desmond Howard posted a video this week as well saying he wouldn't be surprised if the Texas job is open at the end of the season. Here are the comments. I've got the comments from Steve Sarkisian with the media yesterday. Here's the response that Sark had.
Comment on something before I get into our team, something that has been bothering me now over the past few weeks, and that is people reporting or insinuating there's a possibility I could leave the University of Texas, and that is absolutely false and untrue. I'm not going anywhere. I've had no discussions, not with my agent, not with the university, not with any other school, not with any NFL team, about ever going anywhere else. So can we please stop putting things out there that you have absolutely zero evidence on? And then can we please stop retweeting, putting it back out there as if it's true, as if it's the gospel? So moving forward, when some Joe Blow decides to put something on social media out there, we all don't run with it like it's the gospel. Can we all agree on that on this call?
I, for one, am shocked, Jesse. Control freak college football coach is mad that people are tweeting about him, like telling Twitter what to do. Twitter X, whatever you want to call it. What do you think about this whole thing? Good idea, bad idea for Sark to address it this way?
So there's three things that come to mind when I think about this. Notre Dame fans would love Sarkisian because this is what they want Freeman to do, to go up there
exactly
and declare himself, please stop. I am a Notre Dame man. I'm a Notre Dame man forever, and I'm never leaving. There it is. That's what Marcus Freeman should be saying. It is clear that Sark is frustrated because people are just putting out information out there that isn't true, and then it's being spread, and I'm sure it's getting back to him. So I think what he's most frustrated about is he's committed to Texas and this team and finishing the season, and he's got to deal with all these people texting him, calling him, blowing him up. I'm sure people within the administration are asking him, what's going on. He's probably got coaches asking him, players asking him. He wants the focus to be on Texas football in these last two games. So I can't blame a guy for being mad, but there's no reason to go up there and do what he did because it can only backfire on you.
That's exactly right. That's exactly right. And this is why, like, Ant VR in the YouTube chat is saying this is what Freeman should be saying.
It can only backfire on you.
That he hasn't probably means he's talking to folks. But then here's ND Forever 72. I think he's protesting too much, referring to Sark. Like two people can see this thing the exact same way. And I don't think it's a good idea for Sarkisian to be coming out there. I know he's probably frustrated, but it also probably means that he has probably been talking to somebody and he's protesting too much. He doesn't.
Yeah, I mean, there's always a little bit of guilt when you get up there and so empathetic or emphatically proclaim yourself.
Yes, exactly. And that's just like, don't get up there. Don't give any of this any credence. Don't yell at Twitter, for God's sakes.
And that's the thing is, like, the opposite could be true. The more you address it and the more aggressive you are, the more people are going to want to talk about it and dig into it because clearly it has left a mark on you.
Right. It's just going to bring more questions. And that's why I think whatever Marcus Freeman is doing, the only thing he's talked about how he's talked with the team and stuff like that. There is zero reason to come out and make these kind of, declarative statements about what your intentions are. Just like leave it the way it is. Like he's like the people who he needs to talk with about this stuff. He has talked with about this stuff. I think they all know, like, there's no reason to come out and make these kind of declarations like this. I think it can only backfire and it only leads to more questions coming up afterwards. Now Lane Kiffin, a lot still going on with him down there with his Ole Miss Rebels, ranked number 6 and prime for their first ever college football playoff berth. There's still all this talk about LSU and Florida, and there's a lot of people who think that he's going to end up being the head coach at Florida. Can you see any way that Lane Kiffin, because of, there's, again, different reports. Kiffin says there's, that there's no, like drop dead date. There's these reports that Ole Miss wants a decision from him by the time they play Mississippi State in the Egg Bowl next week. Can you see any way that Lane Kiffin just potentially walks away from a playoff team to take another job?
No, and if he did, I'd call him a sellout because I do think it's all about ball. And I think Lane Kiffin is all about ball. A guy who has bounced around a lot, has probably made, a good amount of money and is going to continue making money no matter where he goes. And so, you start looking at Florida and LSU. Are they probably, a little bit better resources wise? Yes. Do they have a better rich tradition in football? Yes. Do they probably have better facilities and boosters? Yes. But if that's what Lane Kiffin was chasing, I feel like he personally could have left Ole Miss by now. He's done enough to spin Ole Miss around. Yeah. I think people realize there's a ceiling when it comes to Ole Miss. And I think people probably thought Lane Kiffin hit that ceiling, but now he's exceeding the ceiling. And so if I'm Lane Kiffin, again, he's a ball guy, in my opinion. I think nothing matters more to him than winning. And there's still, like Kobe said, job's not finished. That's how I think Lane Kiffin is approaching this thing. You can't spend as much time in college football that as Lane Kiffin has and not be about the championship and this potential playoff run. So I just don't think he would leave all that on the table.
I mean, if you can be in position to take a Ferris State quarterback and be in position to be in the playoffs, the number 6 team in the country at Ole Miss, why would you walk away from that? I realize, there are benefits to being at Florida and all that. I can't see any way that he walks away from a team that is going to be in the college football playoff and a chance to win a championship. And if you can do it at Ole Miss, why would you need to go to another SEC school?
He's built the empire there.
Right. All right, that's it. Again, no show tomorrow. We'll be back on Monday, YouTube only. We will talk to you then. Budweiser's Weekday Sports Beat with IrishBreakdown.com.
Win some bets this weekend.